In 1974, the first tabletop role-playing game was created. Since then, people from all around have gathered to play. Join me as we talk with RPG enthusiasts while they share their best, worst, and favorite moments. This is You Had to Be There.
Hey everyone, welcome to You Had to Be There, a D&D storytelling podcast. My name is Thomas Sillis, I'm your host, and before we get started, I always got to plug, the music for my intro was created by Michael James McGarry. You can follow him on It's MJ Music on SoundCloud, and It's MJ Made on Instagram. And the logo for my show was created by Nicole Summers from the Reliably Chaotic Podcast. And before we also get started, I do want to also plug this in the beginning too. If you want to be a guest on the show, it's really simple. All you got to do is email me at youhadtobethere@dndpodcast@gmail.com. Just remember that's D&D with the letters, not the symbol. And that'll bring me to my guest today, the one, the only Nicole Summers.
Hi, it's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Nicole, like I mentioned, plays a wonderful character in an awesome D&D campaign podcast called Reliably Chaotic. But
I play the amazing Pied Piper.
Yes,
naturally.
Pied Piper, Tiefling. I'm actually a fan, so this is fun. I get to interview someone who a show I watch. Before we, to really get into this is like, so you play a ton of these games. You have this podcast. You write stuff with it. Where did it all start for Nicole Summers? Where did it begin?
So
how old were you? I always like to know that.
I actually only started about 4 years ago, like 2017.
All right.
There was a session that I had with my then boyfriend in college, but my character kind of died within like an hour.
Oh no.
So I'm not sure I count that one.
Right.
But my first real campaign was actually with the DM of Reliably Chaotic, Brian, but we were playing Prince of the Apocalypse.
Okay.
He had been talking with our friend Gina, who they were talking about getting a D&D game together because neither her nor I have ever played.
Okay.
So he got Matt and he got our friend Liam. Matt actually plays Scratch. So I met him for Prince of the Apocalypse first, which was really fun.
Right.
Yeah. So
nice.
Yeah.
And was that with that one, so it was you, your friend Gina, and Matt the first time you played?
And our friend Liam, which then Liam ended up leaving, but we got our wonderful friend Carly.
Okay.
Who ended up playing a barbarian and kicking a lot of ass.
Nice. Barbarians are a lot of fun. So your first session that didn't really count, what kind of a character were you playing with that one, that it died so fast? Or they died so fast?
It was a desert elf wizard. It was actually, I used her in Prince of the Apocalypse, but actually fleshed out because I got to play her for more than an hour.
I got you.
Yeah, her name was Melowin Gallinodel.
Melowin Gallinodel. Very, very
yeah,
cool.
and everybody kind of stumbled over the name, so we just...
I got you. Real quick, we're just
Sure.
I'm hearing a little bit of popping on your microphone. Is there like
a little bit of popping?
Maybe
I do have I have a filter on it to try to prevent that, but
give it a little jiggle, maybe the kill cord or something.
Maybe. Cord.
Actually, that might have helped.
Might have just been the cord.
Yep, there it is. Cool. Back on track, folks. All right,
cool.
No worries.
Sorry about that.
No, it's good. So so there was so you had that. What was the experience like? Did it put you off that first one that like when you played and your character died right away? Because I can imagine that would be really frustrating.
It didn't really put me off because I'm not entirely sure that was entirely D&D because he was using graph paper and it was trying to like him. Steve was playing the DM. I was a character and our friend Richard, and we were basically starting at other ends of a desert trying to meet up. I just died before we met up.
Got you. This is kind of like survival based, I guess.
Yeah, quicksand is something you really need to watch out for.
Oh yeah. Luckily, I haven't had that had that problem yet. Yet, yeah.
Make a
So
note.
for future, yeah. Nicole actually does DM for me most of the time actually. So
Yeah.
she will she'll try and get you. She will try and get you. So all those notes. So then you got your campaign. Was it a full campaign, your first one, or was it like a one shot? What did you guys do?
Princes of the Apocalypse. That was
Oh,
a
that
full
one. Okay.
campaign. It actually lasted about 2 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And that was my first real campaign.
And that one you played what kind of a character did you play there?
I was basically a reskinned high elf. Brian was kind enough to work with me, make a desert elf, which basically traded out. I got like a cantrip specific to the region.
Okay.
So spoilers for those of you who haven't played Prince of the Apocalypse, you're working against the cults of elemental evil, basically.
All right.
And he tied each of our backstories to one of the elemental cults. Mine was tied to Earth, so I got the Mold Earth cantrip.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. That makes a lot of sense.
It's a surprisingly useful cantrip when you need to dig a lot of graves.
I mean, I was playing a one shot the other day, and Mold Earth literally saved this character's life. He was being chased down a very narrow tunnel by like these creatures, and he was just like, I just smushed the tunnel down, and he just kept
collapsed it behind you.
It was small. He's like crawling, and these things are grabbing at his feet, and he's just mushing the earth down each time. Yeah. And we're like, that saved your butt. And he was a arcane trickster, so it just like really lucked out that he happened to take that spell.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
That's so funny. But this was, so you were a high elf. Was this
Yeah, I was a desert elf.
A desert elf, right?
Yeah. And her whole story was her tribe had been attacked by the cult of Blackened Earth. And so she ended up traveling west towards Red Larch looking for help, basically. Very cool. And we ended up meeting on a caravan. We had Henry Ainsworth, who, oh, he's fun. There are so many stories about Henry. He was a teenager when we met him. He was an arcane trickster rogue human. That was played by Gina. There was Vega, a human druid.
Okay.
There was Thok, who was a half-orc fighter.
Listen, it's so funny that you say that name, because I think I've come up, like, before I actually played, I think I made like a half-orc, and I'm pretty sure I picked that exact name. I feel like I've had like 2 half-orcs that I built but never played that were named Thok.
It's a good name.
It's a good name for a half-orc.
Strong.
Yeah. Strong name, yeah. Okay, so you got so we got what
we
were
got
you
a wizard.
Though? You were
I
the
was
wizard.
A wizard.
Okay. Wizard.
Which I should not have picked the first time playing a D&D character, because it's one of the more complicated classes.
That's tough. That is tough. How was that like trying to, did you like read everything? Did you just kind of go through the motions?
I read
you were
a
like,
lot.
I dug this grave, now I'm gonna lay in it, so
I'm like, if I'm going to learn this game, if I'm going to learn to play this class, I'm going to read.
Yeah.
Which is actually really funny. One of the times we were up against the crushing wave, we were fighting like the mid boss, essentially. We spent like 10 real minutes planning about how to do this in the order, and like, I'm gonna fireball them because I just got fireball.
Oh yeah, amazing. Like, when you get that fireball, you're like, come on, baby.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking, read your spells in general.
Oh yeah.
I had prepped, we went through the plan, but the rogue moved first.
Oh
and
yeah.
Gina's Henry ran right up, got in melee with the guy, and I'm just like, I can't do the plan now. I can't drop fireball. Henry's there.
Yeah.
And Gina just turned to us, we had a plan.
Right. Yeah.
But there's times where and I love her with all my heart, she does not read her spells. And we have had dangerous. More than one mishap with that.
Yeah. When you're like, oh no, what have I done?
But it's led to really memorable moments.
That's what's fun about these games, is like the mishaps almost make the perfect scenarios, when like that's where the real joy comes out, when you're like, oh no, I definitely screwed up real bad, but this is gonna be funny.
No.
Did your wizard make it through the full campaign?
She died once,
Okay.
but she was brought back.
Okay.
Fortunately, she died to the Prince of Elemental Air, which he did not appreciate Castor. So literally, like, was stealing her breath and knocked her down, got stabilized, and legendary actions like pinged her while she was down.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, casters, I've come to learn when you're just like, it can either go
squishy.
They're squishy, but like you can that first round is crucial. It's like if you don't shut that thing down right away, it can get real dangerous real fast. And that puts a big target on the back. So not only is it your first time playing in general, it's your first time playing a wizard, and you're probably being constantly targeted.
When I was building her, I didn't really know where to put stats.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, like 10 for con, like that seems okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was not okay.
Yep.
She maxed out at a grand total of 76 hit points.
Oh my god.
At level 17.
Oh, that's really rough. I feel like
my druid at level 10 has 80 already.
Yeah, it's a crucial stat. I think that's part of the growing experience too, is figuring out how that works, and like don't ever like you can dump the wisdom, dump the strength, dump one thing, just don't dump constitution.
Just don't dump constitution.
Never dump constitution. It's so important. Yeah, that's a hard one. I do have one character like that, so I can relate to that. So you played that campaign for a while. So your character did make it to the end overall. That's awesome. She made it
to the end. She got married. They became dragons to extend her significant other's lifetime. Like, it was a good ending.
How does that work out?
So
how do you become a dragon? I want to do that.
9th level spell called True Polymorph. If you spend the time and concentrate on it for like an hour, it's a long spell casting time, but it's worth it because you can literally change your race.
Permanent.
You can change everything. Yeah.
Crazy.
Make it permanent.
So that's a level. What? Oh man.
Level 9.
So what level are you when you get that?
Like, I want to say level 17.
17. That's crazy. I
might be wrong. It might be
at that level. That's yeah. That's a crazy spell. I guess it really only makes sense. I guess it makes sense for like, could work really good on bad enemies, but I guess you need an hour to cast it.
You need an hour to cast it. You need them to sit there for an hour.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it's definitely more utility. Like, let's become dragons. That's perfect.
This isn't the body I should be in anymore. Let me fix that.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Well, it was a human and an elf relationship, so she wanted to keep him around longer.
Right. Oh yeah, because
they worked on it together.
So you said you play so you had the wizard, you had the druid, so you are drawn to the casters more than not?
Yeah, I like the casters because of the variety of things you can do with them.
Yeah.
And like the way that you can strategize and you can think about things on the battlefield, like, oh, I can help by doing this. Or like with Morgan, my druid, pass without a trace just to get us sneaking around the city. So useful.
Such a dirty spell. It's such like it's like a
so
DM's
nice.
nightmare. It's just like once they're like, oh, I have pass without a trace going, you're just like, God damn it. You're like,
that's
okay.
Just
gonna walk through my dungeon, I guess.
You can walk through, but some things can see through it. Some things have higher passives.
True. That's true.
You just need one bad stealth roll.
Yeah. But that's but that is like such a crazy spell. So you like that, being able to support /
fight,
do work when you need to.
Yeah, I like
very cool.
Like with Morgan, it's nice to have the ability to heal too, because not every party has a healer.
Yeah.
That was actually the problem when in Princes, when Vega left, he was our druid. He was our only real healer, which is actually why we had Brian gave us the NPC Theamin, which ended up being her love interest.
Gotcha.
Because he was a paladin. Paladin Bladesinger, he was a weird combo, but he was amazing.
Wait, that was the love interest?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the human?
Yes, he was a human Paladin Bladesinger, originally of Mystra, then became of Illustre. There was a whole complicated falling out with a goddess.
Isn't being a Bladesinger and not an elf like a big no-no?
Exactly.
Like... Oh,
that's
wow.
when she found that out, it's like, I see you. I'm not judging, but that's real cool.
Stay in
that's
your lane,
real cool.
Human. She liked it. She thought it was cool. Okay.
I mean, he's interested in it. I mean,
in an elven
practice.
He embraces the culture. I guess would be the thing. It's difference. It's not cultural appropriation. He's embracing it. He doesn't claim it to be his.
And he learned from an elven teacher, so it's fine.
Yeah. Very cool.
It's fine.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you also DM a lot. What was the first time DMing like for you?
Terrifying. Honestly. Yeah. I had been playing D&D for about a year before I first DM'd, maybe a little bit less, give or take a month or two. But a couple of my friends that I normally hung out with, we always get together around like Christmas. And I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool to introduce them to D&D. Mm-hmm. And like Gina was with that group. So two of us knowing how it goes at this point. And so I'm like, oh, I can DM. Oh my God, I'm going to DM. I don't know how many times I messaged Brian because I didn't know rules and I was trying to learn.
Oh yeah.
And I did the really dumb thing the first time DMing. I homebrewed.
Oh yeah, I'm too chicken for that. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So you homebrewed your first kind of campaign, which is kind of fun. I had one guest that also did the same thing, so was this like a one-time deal, like a one-shot you kind of made?
It was gonna be a one-shot. Literally, the mission was they met this gnome bard who had a twin, and she's like, I need help rescuing him. So they were supposed to get the party together, go help her rescue it. It obviously took more than one session, and then it became a campaign.
Right.
And
yeah, it's almost never one.
But it's cool because it took place in Taldore, so I have like the world book, and I have
So you had the world, you just built.
I had the world. I just built the actual campaign.
What kind of like adventure was it? What did you do? And how did it go wrong? Since you said that.
How did it go wrong? Well, it's complicated. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain they call themselves Cavia Emptor, which already means buyer beware in Latin.
Okay.
We have a wild magic sorceress.
Okay.
We have a bard who's College of Whispers. We have, at the time, she was a ranger and cleric.
Okay. But
she's since switched out characters due to story reasons. And we had a halfling fighter.
Okay.
So, couple of them wanted to make heroes of themselves. Some of them were just kind of along for the ride. Now, because it was originally supposed to be a one-shot, I had planned it to occur in Critical Role's timeline, like the Winter's Crest right before the Chroma Conclave attacks in Campaign 1.
Okay. All right. I'm not familiar with Campaign 1 and stuff, but I'm sure there are people that are.
Yeah, for those of you who are fans, that's roughly when it was taking place. And then it's continuing, and I'm like, oh dear. So the dragons are due in like 2 days. Y'all aren't ready for it because you're like level 5.
Oh no.
So I sent them off to Marquette, and they were doing adventures over there, which resulted in a couple NPC allies' deaths, Braywyn's love interest getting ignored because the player had asked me to give her a love interest. So I'm like, yeah, like I can do that. Right. Role play wise, and then gets ignored for like a month. A real person just be like, okay, if you're going to ignore me, bye.
This was the NPC though?
The NPC, yeah. The wild magic sorceress has scorned basically gods and such. She doesn't believe in them, but there's literally a god of magic,
right,
that influences how her powers work. So it's like, you don't think I'm real? Let me just mess with you a little bit more. So I'm sure from your experience with wild magic, it's
a little bit.
You roll a d20. If it's a 1, something happens. I just kind of made it whenever it's a leveled spell, something happens.
Oh. So you didn't? Was that a mistake on the rule, or you just did it to?
Oh, I did it because she was scorning the.
Because she's like pissing off the goddess, which is
just
it's dumb because like, what are you talking about? That's pretty much how you got your magic. Right?
Yeah. And that being said, I love my players. I very much do, but it's just like, it's also fun because wild magic happens so infrequently.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can just mess with you just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Most of the time it's not that bad.
And it's temporary.
Yeah.
Like things that would be like a permanent thing, I make it like, oh, it lasts for like an hour.
Yeah. That's fun.
Or like so it's reversible.
So you sent them you're just near exploding them all the time, which is pretty funny.
Yeah. I also like use some pre-built modules like to help flesh out like little adventures. The Nimresa heist, you guys actually went on it as you were Fillmore.
Yeah, we did that.
You did that
so
one.
You did that campaign with your other players, with other players.
Their great plan with that one was to disguise themselves as the captive that had escaped, run into the warden's office, and then wondered why they almost got TPK'd.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure the warden was like, what the hell are you doing out of your cage? How did that work? Wait, did they all disguise or just one of them?
Just one.
Oh, okay.
Just one disguised themselves, ran in because they're like, oh, it's just the warden. We can handle it. But they hadn't taken out any guards beforehand.
Oh, yeah.
So he calls in reinforcements. They get surrounded. And I, as soon as like that happened in game, I'm like, I need a moment. Like we're gonna do this fight next session, but
you gotta do what you gotta do. They screwed up, so like you gotta do what you gotta do. That's the problem. That'll happen, and you gotta. That's like, I guess, the dance, because you gotta do what they would do.
Exactly.
They would kill them right then and there.
I mean, they didn't kill them outright. The NPC allies they had with them, 2 out of the 3 had fallen, and they didn't make their death saves. I gave them death saves. But the actual party, like, I wasn't going to just coup de grace them. Like, that's just mean. That's just mean.
Right.
If you're going to die, you're going to roll for it. It's going to be, the blood will be on your hands. I mean, maybe not all, because I did knock you down to make death saves, but that roll of your life is on you. It sounds harsh.
That's fair. I feel like I know like some DMs, if the villain is bad enough, will take him out. But it's, I guess it depends on the situation. But I think most of the time that is the right move. Like, let them try. Also, like, if the villain is there and the person is like, they don't really know, I guess, technically, because the person's unconscious on the ground and there's other threats. So like, to waste their time to like finish them off might not be in their best interest anyway. So it makes sense most of the time.
And like, it was not the brightest of plans, but I hoped that like maybe learn from it.
Pull it off, yeah. Yeah,
and like, I don't ultimately want to see characters die. Right. I want you to struggle to make, so your victories are that much sweeter.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because then that's more fun from a story perspective.
A lot of people I like when it's challenging because I get excited and I get nervous because like I don't want to die, but like I'm just like, but if it's like a clean sweep, you're like, but like when it's like,
what's the point?
Oh god,
yeah,
this could
and
be
it's the difficult times, it's the struggles that you remember.
Yeah,
like we survived that.
Yeah, for sure. Were there any instances you as a player made a dumb decision that almost led to death or did lead to deaths? if we're gonna go down to stupid decisions.
There's a couple.
Sure.
For many, we were traveling to Riverguard Keep on our little foldable boat. It was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know that our companion had... Oh no, we were traveling from Riverguard Keep, my apologies, to Wampford. We didn't know our druid had been gored and contracted lycanthropy.
Oh, gored by
A wereboar.
A wereboar.
Yep.
That's a bad one, right? Because
that's a very bad one.
The werebears are like kind of chill, right? From
werebears are lawful good. Like they'll go on a lawful good rampage and like clean up town. Smokey the Barrett.
Oh, okay.
A wereboar, not so much. And we had no idea. So the full moon comes out. We're still on this boat, and he transforms and starts going apeshit.
Oh.
Our arcane trickster Henry slides under the wereboar. He casts burning hands up, but he also knocked himself prone to do it. But he cast it upwards. He caught the boat on fire. And I'm sitting here like, oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. And this is actually a story that Brian likes to fuck with me on a lot with the percentage in the end. But so I'm like, I don't want to make this boat any more on fire, but one of the most effective things right now to drop Vega is a fireball. So
so you fought fire with fire, I guess, is the...
I'm going to get there. I asked Brian, can I dimension... How far are we from shore? Because Dimension Door can take somebody with me.
Right.
And because usually Dimension Door has to be a willing creature, he made Vega roll to see whether or not he would go with me. I Dimension Doored us away from the party to shore. And I'm just like, okay, I just need to survive one round. I can survive one round against him and fireball him. I can drop him. It's fine. It's fine. I can do this. So I got myself away from the party, alone with the wereboar.
Oh no.
With my little squishy wizard.
Oh no.
And the wereboars have multi-attack.
Oh yeah.
So the first attack I was able to shield. I was fine. The second attack he crit and dropped me. Like I was unconscious.
So you were alone on the shore with the wereboar while your party was all over there.
Completely my decision. So he could have killed me. Fortunately, an NPC actually turned me invisible, so he couldn't see me to, just kill me outright.
Wait, so how far away were you from the shore?
30, 40 feet, something like that, give or take.
So you were close
enough. It wasn't that far, but far enough that, the ones in armor needing to swim over would be in trouble.
Oh, right.
Or at least wouldn't get there as quick. So... So Vega, no longer having a target, goes off to Wampford and starts wrecking people. And Theoman, once he realized that I was okay, went murderous on Vega and didn't care who was there and fireballed. So between Vega and a pissed off paladin, Bladeslinger's fireball, 68% of Wampford died.
How many So wait, one fireball or how many fireballs hit Wampford?
Just one.
Just the one, but it still just went on a rampage. Oh, God.
A wereboar and a very pissed off Bladesinger.
To avenge? Is that what he was going for?
To avenge and to drop Vega, because Vega was a problem.
Oh, God.
So there was that dumb decision.
Did Vega survive? Did he
he ultimately survived. He just ended up...
the curse removed?
Yeah, we got it removed, fortunately. We ended up finding JJ actually guested 1 week and played a cleric who was able to remove curse.
Ah, that's good.
And then life was good. Though Vega was still kind of a cannibal, but that's a whole other thing.
Well, wait. Don't say that's a whole other thing. That's not what this podcast is about. This is what we do. Tell me. So, I know. Oh, I guess it's not really your story.
It's not, but it's still funny. Like he kept mentioning things about like eating people or like joking about eating flesh from
just
things.
playing into the fact that he was
And playing
cursed for a
into the
long
fact,
time.
well, not even that. It's he's a druid and can turn into things that eat people.
Gotcha. So just
And we literally saw him. Liam had metagamed when we were in the hidden shrine of Tomoe-chan. There's a jar that has like a human heart that if you eat it, you actually like learn languages from it, which is really cool. But none of us knew that. And we just see Vega take out the human heart and just start eating it.
Oh.
It's like, we suspected, but now we see that you're actually a cannibal. Like, could you not? Could you not?
That's funny. Oh man. I mean, you're playing into it. He was, or I guess, I don't know. It's not possessed. He was cursed for an extended period of time.
He was cursed for an extended period of time.
Make you go crazy. He might still want to headbutt things or whatever boars do. So it makes sense. So what other fun? Because you've been playing. So I know like you've only been playing for 4 years, but you like really went down the rabbit hole, right?
Oh yeah.
You just like you went in deep, with just it makes sense. It's like it doesn't really matter the length of time, but this is what just to be so involved and understanding of everything. So in these 4 years, you've been playing a ton. What is your favorite moments or worst moments? Like which?
Oh goodness. There's so much, like there are so many stories, like the whole like Theamin and Menelwin's love story from Prince of the Apocalypse. Like that is, I'm so happy they got their happily ever after in the end.
That's very cool.
The podcast is so much fun. I was so mean to Piper with her backstory.
Right.
But none of that has been seen yet, and hopefully none will come out of it.
Yeah.
Until we get to
listen to the show, we'll find out. All right.
That's
so
true.
Excluding like that first campaign, maybe, and then obviously the podcast because we don't want to do spoilers or anything like that. Yeah. What other crazy experiences have you had? Like,
let's see. There is my druid Morgan. I have technically three times that I have my spells have caused a lot more damage than they should have. Two of them were two incidences use the same spell.
Okay.
Heat metal. The heat metal stories are fun.
Heat metal is a great spell. How could that go wrong?
How could it possibly go wrong? So her campaign is, we call it replaced because it's people from the magical world got misplaced here in like literally 2019.
Okay.
Boston area.
So it's like
it's modern,
like D&D, like medieval characters in Manhattan, you said, or where is it?
Boston.
Replaced.
So
replaced to Boston.
Really weird. Yeah.
God, that must be funny.
And so Morgan is a druid, so she's really trying to learn, but things are like, especially the metal things are hard to learn. But we were rescuing people from this religious cult called the Brotherhood of Thorns.
Okay.
And there was a guy down a hallway. He had a gun and he was like shooting down at us.
Okay.
So I go, oh, I know, because heat metal, it'll make him drop it.
Drop the gun, yeah.
Drop the gun. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
We had an NPC with us named Damien, who is an artificer, and we have a gunslinger, Smithers. Both are of, the modern world. As soon as I say, oh, I heat metal the gun, Matt and Brian look at each other because they know how guns work. Nicole and Morgan do not.
It makes sense, though. She wouldn't know.
He wouldn't know. And what use do I have with guns? So it exploded and killed several people and injured my own party a little bit. I'm just like, oh no. The other instance with heat metal, we were taking a road trip.
Is this in the same world?
It's in the same world,
okay,
yeah.
Same world.
Taking a road trip. most of our party were in a van. Morgan was on the back of the bike with Damien. The car gets pulled over and a police officer is like talking to them, and because we're going together, we pull over as well. So we see the cop talking to him, and he comes back to the car with it, and he says something into his little radio. And it's like, we found them. And she has the observant feat, so she's like, oh shit, that guy is part of the Brotherhood of Thorns. We know this. We need to go.
Mm-hmm.
So Damien and Morgan both act, but we don't tell each other what we're doing. I was going to cast heat metal on like the wheel to like make them explode so he could, it would slow him down a lot.
Yeah, all right.
Pop the tires.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. Give him some trouble, buy us some time to get away. Damien cast grease. So the two combined turned into a fireball.
Oh, that's so good. You couldn't come up with a plan that good if you actually planned it.
That just reminds me, it's like, okay, next time we talk to each other about our plan.
No, don't ever talk. Don't ever talk to someone. Just do that all the time. Grease and heat metal.
It worked. It
oh,
worked
that's
really
so
well.
funny. That's so good. That's so funny. So I'm guessing the whole thing just up in flames.
Yep. We didn't have to worry about that cop.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's man, I've been having some great. Everyone's been bringing the A game on the show, and this is what I was searching for. Those like crazy mishaps that like either work out or don't. Just like that's so funny.
Yeah.
Did you both do it as like a reaction? You both just like looked at each other and just went,
we recognized it. I just like, he's part of the Brotherhood. He's part of the Brotherhood. So Damien was thinking, oh, make it slippery, make it harder for him to chase. Yeah. And I'm just like, I'll pop the tires. Like those were just the thoughts. Both individually
great ideas, and then they just came together.
But together
in a glorious
destruction.
That's great.
Just pure unadulterated destruction.
That's a good combination to even just have if you have two casters. And like, how does grease is it a circle or square, or do you draw a line? Like, how does that work?
That's a good question. I don't actually know.
Because if you can draw a line with grease and then someone lights it, you can basically do like a firewall at a lower level, because those are like one level spells or second level spells.
It is a 10-foot square centered on a point in range.
It's still a pretty horrible thing to do to a group of characters. That's very, very funny.
But good to know. Good to know.
Nice. Very nice. All right. That's a really good one. What other good stories? That one's so good. I'm like, jeez. Oh man, what else you got?
There was a time when we were actually stealing from we had to chase this druid circle who were basically radioactive. They were following this god of death and destruction called Nergal. Mm-hmm. And they had an offshore basically sub that they were literally in the water. So the way we need to chase them, we need to trace them underwater somehow. We need a submarine. Mm-hmm. So we had gone to Ireland. We spoke to a druid circle there who helped us locate them. We got a couple NPC allies to help us man the submarine, because what do we know? Absolutely nothing. Mm-hmm. So we go to the Scottish base eventually, and we sit down, we make a plan, go over the plan several times, multiple times, the way we're going to get there, because we water breathe to sneak up in there. No one reminded me to cast Pass Without a Trace, because we had set up two teams, one to like get the submarine, the other one to bring down like the walls so we could get it out of the port, and going to use like not tidal wave, control water to make like a distraction with the water, like raise the level and cause problems. So team A goes off to, bring down the thing. They handle things relatively well. Everything's going fine. Morgan's part of team B. and we go and we get spotted instantly. Alarms get raised.
Oh.
But we follow through with the plan and we get a little bit injured, get to the submarine, and she's still doing the control water thing. It resulted in, I think Brian said 17 people dying just because like they were coming in like the little trucks, and the trucks with the water just get washed off.
Oh, so because you were just moving the water all around, you ended up just drowning a bunch of people.
Yeah.
That's like definitely a very powerful but dangerous spell, because like the water, like you can just do so much damage. How does that one? I haven't really experienced it, but like how much water are you allowed to move and manipulate?
A lot. Like with the way the base was set up, most of it, she was able to like use that water that was on the base and like raise the level. And I actually toppled a submarine, which is one that we didn't take. I swept a whole bunch of cars off and people off, and yeah, she's scary.
I feel like
my little girl is scary.
OSHA would show up, be like, "What the heck happened here? We got casualties left and right."
Pretty much, and she felt terrible about it.
Yeah, if you're a good character and you kill people by accident, you usually feel bad about it.
She didn't want to do that, but that's what ended up accidentally happening.
Wow. Do you still play that druid, or is that campaign over?
We're still going. Currently,
that's the level 10 that you
That's my level 10 girl.
Level 10.
Yeah.
Wow, so was this recent then? What level were you with that?
What level were we with that? It was a while ago. Circle of the Waste was a while ago. We ended up chasing them all the way to Chernobyl. I want to say we were level.
You're just like all over the world.
7, 8, something.
Went from Boston to Greece to Chernobyl. That's very, very cool.
We've been to Boston. We've been to New York City. We've been up to Vermont, which is actually like the Bennington Triangle. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Where like people have just mysteriously gone disappearing.
That's in Vermont?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a real place in Vermont?
That's a real place. It's a real horror story, which is
father-in-law
the best and worst thing. The best and worst thing about this taking place in the real world is there are real world ghost stories and horror stories that Brian can just draw from. That actually and create new trauma.
That's a really, really cool way to go about it, of like a DMing style where like you can visit, like, you know, I don't know, like maybe a bunch of kids get trapped in like the Amityville horror house, even though I don't think it's still there, but like something like that, like just something incorporated of like, we call the cops, they can't do anything, I don't know, it's like that makes sense. And then you have these kind of strange adventurers. But like, how does it work, just out of curiosity, like as a player in that, are people, because you have an artificer and a gunslinger, so like it's kind of like mechanical magic.
Those ones are from this world, so that is more mechanical. Like the way Damien does all of his magic is he has this suit that he just modified and built on.
It's like a like Iron Man-ish. But like, how do people react to your character in that world? Are they freaked out?
No, because I mean, we're all, the contingencies when we made those characters is they had to be human.
Okay. All right.
And no wizards. We could make whatever else we wanted, but they had to be human, but no wizards.
Gotcha. But like if people see you, a druid, doing druid stuff, do they like get mad and like are they like it's like a witch hunt or something? Like, I know it's modern day, but I feel like people still would.
Haven't really dealt with a lot of witch hunty things, but our party's made the news several times. There are internet videos, which are one of our technomancers is like erasing our footsteps as much as possible.
So
when she turns into a giant spider on top of the train, people see that. So in kind of the storytelling scenario, you guys are almost like pretty much superheroes. Yeah, a little bit. You're becoming like superheroes. Which is awesome. That's a very cool way to play. Yeah. And this is obviously, has to be all homebrewed, I guess. Oh, yeah. This is so incredibly homebrewed. It's amazing, though.
Yeah, that is very cool. I'm jealous. That sounds fun.
It's fun. I love my Morgan. She has no charisma absolutely
Big
zero.
charisma dump. Fun.
But it's fun because she gets to play like socially awkward because like grew up in a druid circle. Why would I be really interacting with a whole bunch of people?
No, it makes sense. And if anything, like it should make it even more. It should make it harder for you to interact properly because you're in this foreign land. Although I guess in the game you've been there for quite some time.
Yeah, actually, we've been there. Let's see, it's been like over 2 years of actually playing, but we escaped beginning of February 2019, and we're currently in end of June, beginning July. So we've been there February, March, April, May, June, like 5-6 months.
Okay, all right. So long enough to start to understand things, but like you don't have a Twitter page yet. As your okay. That's very, very cool.
Yeah, our monk is a YouTube sensation.
Oh, all right.
Because he 1 is a stripper, 2 is an MMA fighter.
Okay.
And 3, he ended up jumping out a 14-story building.
Yeah.
And survived and walked away from that.
Just superhero landings it.
Pretty much, yeah.
I guess actually out of all of those classes, a monk in a modern day scenario kind of makes the most sense. Monks and fighters really make like the most sense. I guess fighter would even be strange because it'd be like some guy walking around with a sword, which isn't typical. Yeah.
I mean, there are certain weapons and things that got homebrewed to take the place. Like there's a baton, there's a taser.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Or our paladin actually has a sword that can like become like a bracelet.
Very, very
and he
cool.
can just activate it, and he has a sword, which is a lot easier to conceal.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is very cool. Well, that is that's a very in-depth world. That's a really, really cool. I love that heat metal and grease story is.
I know
that is really, really great story.
Crazy.
I think we're kind of at like that 45 to a minute hour mark, so probably start wrapping it up. Why don't you tell anyone listening about podcast the best way you can plug it, because it's super important to do that kind of stuff.
The best way I can plug it, obviously, darling, I have to be Piper. I am one of the champions of Solane from the Reliably Chaotic Podcast. We are a bunch of adventurers who are trying to figure out what's going on with the gods missing in our world and why they're selecting champions to try to be basically their proxy. And a lot of things are happening. Like there are some invading armies and gnolls, and there's so much just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And dragons. I should have prepared a better promo, but definitely if you're interested in that kind of thing, please come and check us out. We would really appreciate just anyone willing to come and just hear our story.
Yeah, I will attest. It is a good story. It's fun. Also, the episodes are only about 45 minutes to an hour, and it's a bi-weekly, so it's extremely binge worthy. You can binge that. You can get caught up. Now's the time to get caught up on the Reliably Chaotic podcast. So, that'll pretty much kind of bring us to the end of this episode. Once again, my name's Tom DeCillis. This is You Had to Be There. If you want to be on the show, please just email me at youhadtobethere@gmail.com. That is D&D with the letters, not the symbol. You can follow me on my Instagram at Tom DeCillis Comedy, because I am also a stand-up comedian, and T DeCillis Comedy on Twitter to get updates on when the show will go live. And that'll be all. This has been You Had to Be There, a D&D storytelling podcast with Nicole Summers.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.